This is the Spritz Girl Mindset Podcast, and I'm your host, Courtney Young. If girlhood is a mindset, this is where we practice it out loud and unfiltered. We're healing, we're yapping, and we're doing it with spritzes in hand. Here's your permission slip to be soft, messy, and magnetic as hell. So grab a spritz, grab a seat, no small talk, just the real stuff. Welcome to the Spritz Girl Mindset Podcast, where we talk all things mindset, manifestation, and making your dream life your real life. I'm your host, Courtney Young, here to help you tap into your power, live with purpose, and shift into the version of you who knows that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Today, I'm so excited to bring on a special guest who fully embodies the Spritz Girl vibe, Dani Mimosa. She's an accountability and time management coach, beauty boss, and total mindset queen. After leaving the 9-to-5 behind in Orlando, Dani discovered her passion for helping women not just manage their time, but use it to step into alignment, stay in gratitude, and accomplish big goals with ease. We're talking about what it means to truly own your purpose, create space for your vision, and trust that everything goes your way. So grab your favorite spritz, settle in, and let's get into the episode. Here we go, besties. Hello, Dani. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you. I am so excited about the conversation we're going to have today because some of these hacks that you've taught me in my own personal life have changed everything. So I'm so excited to get to share that with everybody. But why don't we start by you just introducing yourself and telling my audience a little bit about who you are.
Hi, besties. My name is Dani. I also go by Dani Mimosa, and I am your bestie that is obsessed with making sure that you have your life together with ease. I am a full-time hairstylist. I work behind the chair, but I also delved into the digital space as a time management. When people think of time management, they think of oh, I don't need that. I don't really know that. I was like, well, if you are someone that procrastinates, if you're someone that is always putting things off for later, or maybe you put others' needs before you, and you're wondering why you're probably burnt out, that you don't have time to go to the gym or do things with friends or see family or loved ones, and you're probably wondering, well, that's just always been me, or you're always running late. My target audience is mainly busy women. So they like to take on and put a lot of extra added unnecessary pressure on themselves, or they feel like they need to do everything all at once. So that's where I'm pretty much able to come in and give you the right tools, mindset, headspace, and resource to show that you don't have to do everything all at once, but you can still feel accomplished, whether you're a business owner, you're a busy mom, a dog mom, entrepreneur, you're working your 9 to 5. I kind of have everyone from all walks of life in my communities.
It's so interesting you bring up that accountability word because that's something that's come up in pretty much every guest that I've had on my show so far. Just, yes, this idea of taking ownership of your own story, taking ownership of your own time and making it yours. You are in control of your own life. And it can be really uncomfy to hear that, whether that's in the mental space or the physical space or in your space, that time management realm. You are in control. You set the tone for how your life goes. And it's up to you what you do with it. So it's just, I love hearing you talk about that because it just feels so connected.
You know, it's so funny though, sometimes that we get into this space where as busy women, we don't admit that we need help and that we are someone that's saying well, I should have this all together. I should be able to manage my schedule. I just need to do more of this. And I just need to pack on so much more, where there is so much power in getting in a community or being in a group of like-minded women or people, or just someone that are willing to be in the same space as you. So I hope that for anyone that's listening, that if you are struggling, you're probably needing to look at your environment as well. And are you surrounding yourself with the right people, the right mindset, the right resources and tools for that? Because you're not strong, you're not weak if you ask for help. If anything, I feel like that makes you 10 times stronger.
Yes, I love that you said that because the thing is that nobody can do life fully alone. We are creatures of community. We were made to be in community with one another. So there's areas where I excel and there's areas where I don't excel. And either way, I want to have my community around me because it makes me better and it gives me the community and the stories that I need to continue to motivate me. So I love that you shared that. I think that's so awesome. I want to tap in a little bit to your story and your background. So take me back to your 9 to 5 life. You know, what was kind of going on internally for you when you realized this isn't it? This isn't the life I want for myself. Share with my audience like what that journey was like for you.
Yeah. And honestly, though, and this just happened in less than 2 years ago. So in October of 2023 is when I decided to leave my 9 to 5 of 6 years. I was in technical recruiting. So I was their lead recruiter. I was in management. I've been doing it for a very long time. It was a good job. It was a consistent job. It was a sales job. So very high paced, a lot of pressure, a lot of unnecessary things that can happen along the way. I was also in hair school. And then I graduated from cosmetology school. I have always been a person that has to be involved in the move, busy. And I was somebody that was going to college and working my 9 to 5. And then once I graduated, I was like, I need to do something else. And I've always had a passion for the beauty industry. So then I took night classes while growing in my 9 to 5. And then I finished that. And then I procrastinated so long just to get my license. And then COVID happened. And so you already know what happened during that. And I thought that was confirmation for me. It's like, maybe I'm not meant to do hair because I didn't get furloughed. I still had a job. I was working from home. And so I was like, maybe this wasn't for me. Then I just felt as though I was getting to a season in my job where I'm like, is this it for me? I am making okay money. It's not life-changing money. I have this big picture of the life that I want and like who I want to be. But then also I felt as though that there was a major block of what I need to do and what was preventing me from taking that leap. I was constantly making excuses for myself. Oh, I'll do this tomorrow, or when I have this much money in the bank account, when I have this savings, when I lose this amount of weight. I was making so many excuses as to like waiting. And it just got to the point where I was getting involved in other entrepreneurial women empowerment events. And I was very grateful because that was kind of the shifting point where it's like I always cared and was passionate about personal development. And once I started joining this community, going to these events, I got very inspired. Like speakers that would come to these events, it opened up my eyes to a new world that I didn't even know existed. And mind you, I was halfway in, like my foot was in the beauty industry because I was working part-time at a salon. So I was doing my 9 to 5, and then I was working weekends at the salon when I was doing Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. So then I technically get one day off, and then it really wasn't one day off because I'm in sales. So I'm always working. I'm very grateful because I was going to these events and I was able to afford, go and just expand myself and invest in other things where I got exposed to just a new level of mindset and a new level of success that I didn't think that was even possible. I think that there was some confidence that I was lacking, thinking that they can have that never could be me. But then I questioned that, like, well, why not me? She does it. She can do it. And then I turned that envy or that jealousy or that goal that was so far from me. I was like, how can I get closer to that? What do I need to do? It got to the point where I was dreading going to work. And I'm coming through a lot of these roadblocks in my life where it's like, well, do I do this? And how about this? And I just moved in with my boyfriend. How am I going to afford this? And all the questions came up as to what should I do? And I'm very grateful because my best friend, she was been with me since hair school, and she's always been on my ass saying, Dani, what are you going to do? Because you can't keep doing this. And I can tell that there was something that clicked where I was in my car and I was purposely delaying not going into work. Looking at the screen, I was just like in autopilot mode where I was just working. I was like, this is not for me. I reached out to one of my good friends that was working at a salon because I remember to this day that I was at a birthday dinner and I was talking to one of my friends and I was saying like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I want to do. And she was like, I feel like you've already made your decision. So then I looked at myself and it was just immediate like action where I texted my friend and I was like, hey girl, do you still need an assistant? And she was like, actually, yes. I really do. I am desperate. I need help. And so then I looked at my boyfriend and I was saying, I think I'm going to leave my job and I want to go do hair. And this position just opened up. And I remember to this day, he was saying that, Dani, I'm not saying that I don't believe in you, but if you are going to do this, you have to go all in. And that was the first thing that my friend said too. You're going to have to leave your job. I need you full time. Like, I need you to commit.
Yeah, you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Can't keep doing it, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And there's so much power, besties, when you decide. When you're deciding that you're done with it, when you're deciding that you want more, when you decide that this is going to be it, there is no going back. Like, there's option one or option one, plan A, plan A. Like, there is no plan B. You're going to make this happen. So I had a meeting, I looked down the numbers, and it obviously was very scary because it was a very significant lifestyle change that I didn't know at the time what that was going to even look like. And that humbled me. Is that you're feeling, though, that you need all this in order to get started when you're able to do so much with less. And I think that was where the test and the calling was for me, was that I didn't need that stable job. I didn't need to have all the things in order to go to my purpose. I felt like I was being guided and just protected on that. Whatever message that you're having, whatever thing that you're doing, whatever you are destined for, the way will be made for you. You just have to decide. And so then here we are, I put in my notice. I had some time off, and then I started at the salon that I'm at now, and I've been there for almost in October, it will be 2 years. And it's just kind of crazy how that's happened. And then it's along the way, once I was building my clientele, or I'm working behind the chair as an assistant and going through the program with my salon, I still stayed connected to my women's empowerment community. And I started going to more events. And then I got really delved into, like, well, what does that look like to be an entrepreneur? And then I had an opportunity where I was able to speak on stage at an all women's empowerment event. It was the same event that I went to that helped me, encouraged me to leave my job and gave me that confidence. And so it was kind of a full circle moment that I had that opportunity to speak in front of 150 women. And that's where we get into time management, because I was all about mindset, motivation. I was very into getting into that headspace where I believe in optimism, talk about positivity, talk about how you can change your career, you can change your mind with one decision. But my organizational skills, my mentor at the time was saying that, hey, I know you're good with the heads. I know you're good with mindset. I know that that's very motivational, inspirational, but I need practical steps on how people can achieve their goals. And I just threw it out there saying, well, I'm really good with my time management. And she was like, yeah, that's what you're talking about. I'm like, oh shit. Well, here we go. And so then I had to start really reevaluating of, like, what does that even look like, and how I actually am able to do it all, but not be busy. I didn't want to be just busy. I wanted to be intentional. I wanted to be productive.
It's so crazy that word busy, like, that's really resonating with me too, because I feel like it's so easy to jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And you might be like managing your time, but if you're being busy instead of being intentional, you're not 100% in the thing that you're doing. You're showing up as a body and you're just simply existing. You're not absorbing anything. You're not learning anything. You're not connected. You're not growing. That difference is huge.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So kind of like fast forward to that. So I had the opportunity, I spoke on stage, and that really was a very reflective on me, because what I was suggested was, or given advice on, was that when you were speaking to these people, who were you 3 steps ago?
Yeah.
Who was the Dani three steps behind? And I was like, well, I was working in my 9 to 5 and I was burnt out, and I didn't have no time for the gym, no time to properly eat. I wasn't sleeping because I was overworked. And it was just to the point where that's not the life that I wanted. And once I got clear with that, and then I decided to take that leap, and yeah, maybe my hours changed a little bit, I figured out and discovered, like, this is what was ideal for me. The minute that I just started sleeping better, that I started really prioritizing my mindset and my well-being and protecting my peace, that was the most weight I ever lost. Wow. This was the glowiest that I've ever been, the most involved, the most bold. I was having the audacity to show up for that. And I think that there's a lot of folks that you would be surprised how much you can bring in and call into your life when you just decide that, you know what, I'm going to just show up for myself. I'm going to be more intentional. I'm going to prioritize me first. Fill your own cup. You can't fill your cup as other people's cup. If you're empty, I can't give or serve if I'm not being able to do the same for me. People want to see results. People don't just think you just wake up and then you're a boss babe. Like, no, like, what does that even look like? Who is she? How does she act? How does she show up? What are things that are important to her? And that's kind of what I am able to show my clients, that you don't have to give up your late nights. You don't have to give up your Netflix and chill. You don't have to give up your Sunday resets or your slow mornings to have more and to do more, because I feel like a lot of women are programmed thinking that we have to have this or that.
Yep.
To choose. And I was like, not saying that you can't have it all, but sometimes there are seasons of when you can have one thing at a time.
Yep.
And then eventually you're going to build up that momentum as far as the like, I can have it all in the seasons that are important and the seasons that it's required it to be. The time that I left my job, that was the season for rest. I was definitely catching up on prioritizing what does it mean to properly rest. And then it got to the point where it's like, all right, now not necessarily grind mode, but it's like I had to be very intentional with the effort that I'm putting into my job, because how is it that I'm on my feet more? It's a very like physical, working as a hairstylist, like in the beauty industry, it's a very taxing job on your body. But at the same time, though, why is it that I'm not exhausted after work? Even though my job can be draining, working with clients can be draining, but there was not one time where I would trade what I am doing now for my 9 to 5, because that's when you know you are aligned. That's when you know that you're really doing what you love. And I have this mantra saying, I get rich doing what I love. And so every time that I stick by that. It's like, all right, I'm getting rich doing what I love. Like just right now, it's Monday. Technically, it's my day off, but I have an opportunity to speak on a podcast on a topic and share my story and, just kind of gain more and connect more with other like-minded women in a different community as well. Alignment.
I love what you were saying about that you get to choose, you get to decide. Because for someone like me, like I'm an Enneagram 6, which I struggle hard with making that decision. You're in control of your own life. And I've always had this voice in the back of my head telling me, you are meant to be the second in command. You're meant to be a supporter. Like your job is to execute XYZ for everyone else. Some of that is how I grew up in the church. Some of it is the different roles that I've had over the course of my adult life. And now it's kind of the first time where I'm really stepping into my own voice, my own power, and deciding that this is going to be this season for me. This is what I want my life to look like. And it's so true, but especially for people who are like typically very people pleasing or people oriented, that decision-making process can be so scary. I mean, it's a cliche saying, but there's no growth in a comfort zone and no comfort in a growth zone. When you're growing, the universe is going to throw everything it can at you when you're out of alignment. You're going to get in your own way. You're going to get blocked. And that should be like a check engine light, right? To like, look, am I doing the things I'm supposed to be doing? Because if you're miserable and you're living in burnout, how are you supposed to be helping other people? How are you supposed to be doing these things you're saying you're wanting to do when you can't even show up for yourself?
Exactly. There's this saying that I always lived by was that hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. So it's very easy for us to be like, well, I can easily put this off, but the hard life is that you're going to keep delaying your purpose, keep delaying what you need to do. If you make the hard choice now, AKA myself, was that I'm going to go and leave this comfortable 9 to 5 to go and pursue something that is unknown, that I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what is in store for me. I don't know what is going to be ahead. But the easy life is that like I'm slowly every day getting closer to my purpose, and I'm getting closer to where I need to go, who I need to be around. Like there was a saying too as well, like you can't control the cards that you're being dealt, but what you can control is how you play the game. You don't know what's going to be thrown at you, but you can control who you're going to be and be the player that become the player that needs to play this specific game, this game of life at this point.
Yeah, I love that metaphor. We can't control what's thrown at us. We don't get to control all the outside noise. What we do get to control is how we respond, how we connect to one another, how we lift each other up, how we prioritize and love ourselves first. Those are all things that are completely in your power and you have complete control of. You get to make the decision to be intentional or not. And that's up to you. That's up to you. Do you want the easy way out, or do you want to do the hard thing and do the work?
Yeah. And it's sometimes that you say, like, it's not that you can't do it. It's you really have to be honest with yourself and say, do you want to do this? I always say this to my clients every time. Like, do you want to have more time with your kids?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have better eating habits? Do you want to make more money? So you have to be very clear with what is it that you actually want. And honestly, that's also a limiting belief as well. What do you think that you are worthy of? What do you think that
Yes.
you are allowed of? It's like, I can't, that whole I'll sleep when I'm dead type thing is so like, it gives me the biggest ick.
That is the
When
number one track to burnout.
100%. And I just think that when folks say that, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I was just like, for what?
Right. Who are you helping by doing that?
I was like, what purpose is that going to do? Like, you're going to be earning yourself out to the ground. You're going to have all the money that you want, but at what cost?
Yeah.
How many things? And there are times that you're going to have seasons of sacrifice. There are going to be times maybe you do manage your spending, or maybe that you don't go on as many trips, or maybe that you are having to take a step back from a couple of people and friendships and relationships in order to get clear with what you need to do. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't negate your responsibilities and you should keep going, but why make it hard for you?
Get clear about what you want. That's step one. That's base level ground step one. But then I think of so many of my clients and so many of the people that I know, and some of them are so clear about what they want, but they are unwilling to be honest about those wants and needs.
Why is that though? And even folks say, I'll be happy with $10,000 months. Like, I just need 10,000. Like, why not 50,000?
Right.
Why not 100,000? Why is it that we have to get into a state? Oh, that's too much. I can't ask for that. Like, if it's getting uncomfy, like, think bigger.
Right.
You're going to need more. Be delulu. It's not going to hurt anyone when you are saying that you want more, but it's also, you got to think about what do you associate that with? Maybe there are times that people, like, let's just take money, for example. People with a lot must be doing dirty things. And so then they associate having more money makes you a bad person. And so that's why they only just want enough. Or maybe they were raised with that, like, hey, we just had enough, and you have to be okay with just having enough. And sometimes I'm like, besties, it's okay to want more for yourself. It's okay to want princess treatment in relationships. We can go into that too as well. I just think that we need to stop limiting yourself and be honest with what you want. And if you want that, 10 times more.
Yeah. So how do you coach other women through these moments of doubt, through that, like, oh, I'm trying to start something new, but I either don't know where to start, I don't know how to get clear about my goals, or I know what my goal is, but I'm not sure that I feel like I want that goal, or I can't be fully honest about it.
I think that, like, the first things first is when I'm talking to a client that is maybe they have an idea of where they want to go, or they know what they want. I just break it down, because sometimes we like to overestimate and we underestimate how much time or things will take us, right? And so when people tell me that I want to make, and I'm just going to, like, just stay on the topic of money, because, like, 9 times out of 10, though, folks think, like, how can a time management accountability coach make me more money? And I was like, well, I'm going to give you the best systems in place so that way you can have more time to be creative, or how to be smart without outsourcing, and give you an actual system to do things. So when our people are telling me that, for example, Dani, I want to have $50,000 months, right? And so I was like, okay, perfect. And so then I'm trying to show my clients the gap between where they want to go, and where they now. I call them digestible goals. So when we're thinking of, and we're going to break these goals, okay, $50,000 months. Where are you right now? I'm making X. Okay, that's the difference of what you are needing, right? And so I'm like, all right, divide that by, we're going to go by quarters, by the next 3 months. We want $50,000 months. Like, what do we need to make every month in order to get to close to that goal? So I need to make this much extra, because this is what I'm already making for that. Okay, how can we do that? We have this goal of like 50,000. This is the difference. This is what you're making. This is what you need in order to do it. What does $50,000 months look like in your business? Oh, I got to sell this many products. I got to close these many deals. I have to be paid X, Y, D, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Then now let's go ahead and be like, what does that go into? Well, that means I got to start creating content. I got to start doing, and we start brain dumping. Because the thing is that, though, besties, like, when you keep it in your head, you are going to forget things. You are not, and sometimes you have to be able to see things on paper to be like, oh, that's it. So,
Especially for my neuro spicy girlies.
you have to be able to break it down and be like, okay, I want this. And then like a tree, like, okay, then I need to do this and then this and then this. And then now you can start breaking down those smaller goals and being like, okay, I know that I need to get content. Content falls in $50,000 months, right? How are you in your content? Oh, maybe I post like once a week. Okay, let's get clear with you being consistent on your content. Yep. What do we need to do? What's a realistic number? Oh, I got to start posting like 3 times a week. Like, how can we do that? And so then I start like dissecting. And mind you, I normally get to sit down with my monthly members. Like for every month, they all get a 1 hour call with me. And I promise you, they see like months of results just by one call. Our time management we are learning habits. We are breaking old patterns, old belief systems. So even though like, yes, you may see some instant results, but the long-term gain, you are going to see like progressive changes. I also train them to be grateful and instill a lot of gratitude on enjoying that process, not feeling though that we're not going to do this instant gratification thing. I'm going to give you just enough where you're going to feel accomplished. But when you look at 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, when you look at the big picture, that's when you're going to really see transformation. You don't see it now. And that's what I'm trying to say is like, you got to trust the process. You have to understand that we got to start here. You can't get to $50,000 months if you're not showing up as a $50,000 earner.
Yes, ma'am.
And honestly, though, some of these girlies, when they say that they want some high ticket money and stuff like that, and I literally have been guilty of this myself, is that I want this amount, but if I am not able to manage $100, what makes you think that I'm going to be able to manage $100,000?
Yep.
What is it that you are having now? Because it was crazy though, like, and this is like a side story, was that when I left my 9 to 5 and then I had to take a very significant pay cut and I had to get very honest with my spending habits and my skills. And I was like, how is it that even when I was working in my 9 to 5, I still felt broke?
Yeah.
But I took a very significant pay cut, but I'm doing more and I'm just appreciating more. I remember there was this one time when I was getting better with hours. I was working, taking clients, and I was actually making like a little bit more income. I was able to go and buy groceries. And I'm very grateful that I have a partner that supported me during this journey, like, saying, hey, like, if this is what you want to do, we'll take on, we'll figure out, we'll budget, we'll get clear on everything. But there was one time that I had a very good week and I had tips and I was like, I'm going to go and buy food for our dogs and I'm going to go grocery shopping and get little things for the week. And he's like, oh, you sure? I was like, no, I can do it. And I can tell you, Courtney, the amount of gratitude I told him, I was like, that was the best experience ever. I told him, like, I'll never take for granted grocery shopping again. Because there's a point in time where I could buy what I want, go where I want. And I had to stop that for a very long time. And like the fact of that I get to do this again. Like, how lucky am I that I was able to like buy food for our household? It's something so small. I wasn't appreciating that. And sometimes I feel like maybe God, the universe, I had to take this away so that you can really show like what you actually have and what you are grateful for and what a blessing your life has been.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have actual like goosebumps from that. I'm so moved by that story. And while you were talking about that, it got me kind of thinking too, like looking at my spending habits, and we're on money. So we'll use that as like, how many times do we go on Amazon or go on Target and mindlessly spend money because it's a dopamine hit?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, that begs the question for me of like, okay, well, how are you finding that happiness, that joy, that gratitude? And are you finding it in like your quick little hits that aren't going to fix your problem long term? You're not going to like make that investment, or are you being intentional and grateful for the things that you have? So like, for example, the other day I had a really long last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you haven't.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the spa. I deserve this. I have the money to do this. I'm going to do it. And I hesitated when I looked at the price. It was like $200 or something like that. And I was like, this is expensive. I don't know that I really want to do that. And then I stopped and I paused and I asked myself, I was like, okay, if I don't spend this $200 on this, how am I going to spend that $200 buying useless shit on the internet, Uber eating things? Like, what's that going to do for me long term? And so I was like, you know what? Let's invest in myself. Let's invest in my own self care. And it was the best day ever. And I never would have had that if I was so hung up on the little dopamine hits. And yeah,
Yeah.
I might not be able to Uber Eats once or twice this week, but I don't need to be doing that shit anyway. Like, bringing me any joy.
And then and that's the biggest thing is that when you are spending money, because I'm a very big thing on like what goes comes around. And it just like, it's like an energy loop thing. So for me, like when I got into it, because I got to a point in scarcity where it was the opposite for me, where I couldn't spend the money, right? I didn't have it. So I couldn't spend it. But now that when I was starting to get more money, I was like, I got to hold on to it really tight. And money is not intended to do that. Money is an energy. Money goes where it needs to go. But you have to be able to show some type of gratitude and understand that there are things that for you that it will always come back to you in tenfold. Like, this spa day, what is that setting up for you in the future? Because future me, Delulu me, goes to the spa because she had a hard week at work. And like, Delulu me, by herself me, does spend this with ease because she knows that it's going to come back to you in tenfold. So like when you are not being intentional, like you said, intentional where the money is going to go, if you're just doing it just for the quick hit, then that's where you're going to be crossing the line as far as like not appreciating money, not appreciating anything that you do for me. And like there's sometimes besties where you have to make uncomfortable payments. Sometimes you have to do that, where it's like recently I'm going to be investing in a one-on-one coaching call. It's a $200 90-minute call, right? And it was that hurt me because I was just like, oh, like $200, but I got rent in like 3 weeks. And then I started like budgeting all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? This will always come back to me.
Because if you're not learning, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, how do you move forward? How are you helping yourself?
And you also like give yourself some grace, bestie. Buy yourself the coffee.
Yeah.
Like your spending plan, and I honestly don't like to even call it a budget. I call it a spending plan. Your goals is not going to change instantly by cutting off your $5 coffee.
Right.
Let's be real. Like get the coffee, buy the lunch. It's okay. Go to the spa. Nobody's saying that you're doing. For me, like how I was taught was that as long as all your bills are paid or all your responsibilities have been taken care of, like I try to pay all my bills in the beginning of the week. So like for the rest of the month, like everything's already accounted for. Maybe one or two bills like are sprinkled throughout the month, but most of the time my expenses are pretty much covered. Like, hey, rent's paid, the dogs are taken care of, my gas is full, I already paid for this membership, I cut this off, I didn't do this, and then I have this remainder in my account. And so I asked him, where do you want to go? Yeah. What do you want to do with it? I was like, I actually need new towels, or you know what, let me go ahead and cook Brian, my boyfriend, dinner, or let me get something for the girls, let me do something for grooming. Don't like shame yourself or don't feel guilty when you're wanting to spend money, because it always comes back to you tenfold for that. And versus where it's like there's been so many times where I would just like impulsively shop just to shop, and there's pretty much half of the things that I don't even use anymore. So now at the point when I'm starting to have a better relationship with my spending, it's like I'm trying to teach myself not to come from scarcity. Like, oh, I can't spend this. Like, no, I can do this. Like, it's okay. Like yesterday I went out and like I spent like $50 on a round of drinks, and I was like, oh my gosh, why did I spend that? And blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? It's only $50. Yeah. It's going to come back. You're a generous person. The Dani that you want to become always buys like a round of drinks for your friends. This is who you are. You were doing like your 9 to 5 and you didn't blink twice. So why do that now? And I was like, you know what? You're right. I am allowed to spend money on my friends or spend money on myself or go and do something, go and book the trip and stuff. It's okay to be uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the same thing like with fitness goals, like with the gym. You miss one workout, it's not going to throw your whole plan off progress. So it's the same thing with like maybe your goal is getting up early. Like you miss one morning, it's not going to throw off your whole thing. You just have to be intentional about giving yourself grace and then recognizing that it's not a like wheel giving you permission to continue to make those choices.
Exactly. I was reading Atomic Habits and there was one section in the book where it's like, you can miss one, but don't ever miss twice. Yeah. So it's like, all right, you missed one day, don't let it happen again, because then once you start going and missing it that second time, then it leads to the third time, the fourth time, and then so on and so forth. Yep. So let's say that like, oh, I missed taking my supplements or taking my CMOS and stuff. Like, it's one time, but I'm gonna keep doing that and get curious, besties. Don't how do I say this? Do not punish yourself if you're getting it wrong the first time. You are learning this new habit. You are understanding a new headspace, and get curious as to why is it that I'm always late? Why is it that I like to spend money on Amazon and just for that dopamine? Why is it that I'm scared of spending $200 on a tire, but I'll spend $200 at Sephora? So get curious as to questioning, like, why. Do the inner work and think, like, who are you?
Yeah.
And then you're going to take those traits and you're going to take those habits and, like, okay, like, what do I want to expand on? What do I want to move on? And then that's the biggest thing on my community, is that you are not only, yes, I can give you practical tools, but I can also show you that who your ideal version is. Who do you actually want to be, and the habits and systems and tools and routines and personality and mindset of how you can do. Like, it's more than just like, I'm going to keep you accountable because you want to lose 10 pounds. I can show you how to do that, but I will also show you who do you need to become in order to be someone that's consistent at the gym, be someone that is starting their own podcast or stepping out and leaving their 9 to 5. There's so many layers and levels. And it's kind of funny because in a marketing standpoint or in a business standpoint, it's hard to present that to my ideal audience, because my ideal audience, my ideal client are procrastinators. They say things to the last minute. So they haven't hit to the point of rock bottom where they're like, Dani, I need you. And sometimes they don't even know that they even need me.
Jordan Sayat, who's like a big fitness coach, one of his mantras is 80-20. So in your nutrition, like, be 80% consistent and 20% have the cheat meal. Go out with your friends, because consistency, not perfection, is going to be what gets you those results. If you're beating yourself up over this idea of like, I have to be perfect, I have to nail it 100% of the time, every time, you're going to fail. You're setting yourself up for failure.
And what's the fun in that? 9 times out of 10, though, when people are reviewing back or reflecting back on a goal that they achieved, and 9 times out of 10, though, they're actually more excited to look at the progress photos than the end result.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've done this, like, and it's going to be crazy, like, when you start, like, because you've been so consistent on your content. There was a random moment that I wanted to binge my content. And so I started looking, because content has always been something that I've been like falling on and off, very inconsistent with. And I'm getting back to wanting to be more consistent online. And I was binging all of the content that I started posting out when I started agreeing to speaking on stage. I had to start showing up more online. And I was in actual tears, because I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that moment when I was editing. I was at a coffee shop here. Oh my gosh, like, I remember when I went on that trip, and I thought about it and I read some of my captions, and it was like a binge. Like, I was like, I am such a comfort creator. Seeing that, like, just made me realize that, like, I see the end goal of being consistent as a content creator. And then I'm going through all the content that I've been posting since then. I was like, I found more dopamine watching that than seeing the end results of the follower count that I have or whatever.
I always say to my clients too, it's about the journey. Like, the journey is just as important, if not more important, than that end result. Because we talk about this idea of, my mantra is your story matters. Every single person has a story. When you lean into that story and share it with the world, you never know who you're going to impact. And also, it makes you more whole, more happy when you're able to fully lean in and embrace life and be your full authentic self. And so, like, looking at that and thinking about that and talking about that, like, you'll never get to that point if you can't get comfortable with sitting in the journey. There are going to be periods of time where you're in the middle, where you're in the messy middle, where you're learning, where you're setting boundaries, where you're learning to stick up for yourself, where you're learning to be consistent. And that's going to be a struggle at times, but you're going to look back on that a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you're going to be like, thank God I let myself learn there. I always say too, like, when we're trying new things for the first time, like, again, if you're gonna go figure skating, what's gonna happen the first time you go figure skating? You're gonna fall on your ass. Like, it's clunky. Like, we all are gonna fuck up and make mistakes, especially in the beginning. Like, but that doesn't mean we don't continue to try. So if you're struggling with, like, my time management is like not great and I need to start getting up earlier, maybe you hit snooze on your alarm a couple of times, but that doesn't mean you don't stop trying. That doesn't mean you turn off the 6:30 a.m. alarm. That just means you hit snooze, and then the next morning you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try and get up on time this morning, or like making friends or sharing your story. These are all like not easy things to do. Leaning into authentic community is not something that's easy. Managing your time is not easy. But again, choose your heart, right? It's hard for
Yep.
everyone else.
And we can't forget that we're in a season of like comparison as well. I'm sure that there's a lot of folks in your community that are probably listening, like, well, Dani does that. Dani can do this. Or Courtney has, like, she has it all together. And I was like, best believe that you can never compare somebody's chapter 1 or
Yeah.
level 1 to somebody's level 10 for that. And I was like, besties, like, if I were to show you pictures of things that I would hold off, like, I'm so burnt out that I would do laundry and it would be piles of clothes in my bedroom, and I would just sleep on top of that because I was so anxious to actually put it away. Like, best believe that we've all experienced, we had to hit rock bottom in order to help others that are, again, like, you want to look at, when you're looking at people that you want to help, who were you 3 steps ago? And that is the person that you want to help. That is the person that you are going to serve. And so when I think of Dani, and you got to understand, it's also confirmation that you're not alone. Like, oh my gosh, if Dani or Courtney, was a hot mess express, that means that there's hope for me. There means that I can do it. Like, I can have that too. I can do it too. But you have to lean into your community and understand that this is not there. We collaborate at the top. There is no competition for that. And you got to understand that there is no need to, nobody's against you. We actually want to see you win. And the folks that don't want to see you win, they're going to show you, they're going to be very clear of that they have no good intentions for you. And you can't unsee that. Once you see something about a person that may be a little bit sketchy or passive aggressive, or that was kind of mean, like, don't unsee that. Get really clear. I'm gonna say that I think that's like kind of like the word get clear, get it very intentional with who you surround yourself with. Energy is very contagious. So when you have somebody that's being a hater, that is, trying to, that you can tell that they authentically do not want to see you, genuinely, they don't want to see you succeed, besties, like, you better move on over. You better let them be over there, and then you move on to here. And like the biggest thing that I always suggest to my clients is, like, people need to read the 4 agreements, honestly, because when you got to take things personal, or don't assume why this person's doing that, but it's none of your concern at this point. Go ahead and mind your business. Don't take it personal, and be the best that you can, and be impeccable with your word, and keep that.
Yes, I love that. Yes. And I feel like that, again, getting clear, that is how we can help each other find our people, especially in these seasons of feeling like stuck and feeling lost, like forcing yourself to get really clear and leaning into, well, who is my community and who wants to see me win and who is, challenging me? Because another thing I always say is, genuine support doesn't always mean that I'm going to agree with everything you're doing. Sometimes genuine support looks like accountability. It looks like you come to me and you say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, what am I missing? I'm going to be honest with you about that. I'm going to tell you, like, well, this is what I see. And that is genuine support. And if people can't handle that conversation or don't want to have that conversation, that kind of tells you everything you need to know, and that they aren't wanting to take accountability. They aren't wanting to have those conversations. And you need to be surrounding yourself with people who want to have those conversations, who want to be better, who want to challenge each other, who want to grow together. And if that is not your community, those are not your people.
Exactly. If you don't bring me peace, you're not my people. Like, at all. So it's kind of funny though, because you have to be able to take the feedback. That's the biggest thing. Like, it's not a failure because there's this thing that we follow by, like, failure is feedback, feedback is knowledge is power. So when you are trying to get closer to the power, and that you are failing at something or not doing something right, what's the feedback? What is that telling you? What am I going to tell you? And that's kind of like where I land too, is that I give you the feedback on what is missing. What is something that you can try? Different avenues on how you can just expand and explore and do other things as well.
Yeah. No, I love that. So before we kind of move into our wrap up session, I just wanted to ask, how do you feel like we can help the next generation of women step into their power earlier?
I think that that's a really good question. I think that, how can we help them? I would say continue to not be afraid to be seen. I think that the talents that you are having, or that thing that you are hesitant on showing up as, like, whether you want to show up on social media more, whether you want to start groups at your job, or whether you want to ask for that promotion, or whether you want to take on more responsibilities on wanting to help other people, you have to be okay with being seen.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with wanting to share your knowledge and share your gifts and share the tools and information. You want to be generous. You really want to be generous with your knowledge of what what you're share, because you don't want to gatekeep things. And so for folks that are wanting to step into more of an authority figure or help more people or wanting to be that go-to person, you have to show up. You have to be seen for that. Start posting the content, start talking about it on TikTok. Stop limiting yourself and thinking that, oh, when I do this, like then I will start and helping there. So I think that that's the biggest thing, is because your gifts and you choosing to stay silent or not show up as your authentic self is your most valuable commodity. It's your most hidden secret. Your goals and your talents it's a secret. It's a hidden secret right now. You are choosing to hide your talents and hide your gifts because you're afraid of who may have opinions about that. And so be bold, be authentic, be seen, be unapologetic, and just show up as that. And this, like, granted, like, and I'm not necessarily teased amongst my friends group, but I am positive. So I'm like, oh, everything goes your way. Oh my gosh, like I manifested this. Like, I'm a very genuinely optimistic person. I like to see that the glass is full versus half full, right? I forgot how like that phrase works.
I know what you're saying.
You know, but everyone else like, oh, that's just Dani being Dani. I'm like, yep, you're right. And I own it. I don't care, because like, if it doesn't resonate with you, it's going to resonate to someone, because the amount of messages that I've gotten saying like, thank you for sending this, people that were listening to my podcast, Good Morning Bestie, when they're saying, I did not know I needed to hear this. I was doing yard work in tears because of the confirmation that you gave me and the courage and the confidence that you gave me. How crazy that would have been is that I would have not shown up if I just chose not to be seen. How many of those women would have been impacted?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I'll say too, I'm a naturally, so again, Enneagram 6. I will always say I'm not pessimistic. I'm not optimistic. I'm realistic. And that's not true. I'm actually very pessimistic. Like, if we're being really honest, I'm very pessimistic. And I always think of you when I hear that everything goes my way. And it's something I have genuinely, legitimately started implementing, because when you start to believe that, then it becomes your reality. Like, the thing I went from saying about starting this podcast, I'm so nervous. I don't know that I want to put myself out there. I don't know that this is the right time. I don't know that this is the right season. To now I'm saying to all my friends, in a year from now, my life is going to look completely different.
Period.
Because of who I am and because of what I'm bringing to the table. But everything goes my way, and this will work out for me. And maybe not in the ways that I'm expecting it to, but it will work out because everything goes my way. And I do always think of you when I say that.
Really appreciate that. But imagine though, like, if I chose to, like, oh my gosh, Dani, you should stop that. I'm like, nope, I'm not.
Yeah.
And it was like, sometimes I would look at my best friend, was like, is that me being unapologetic and authentic? And I told myself my words for this year is like iconic and consistent. I always want to know, like, I want to be iconic. I want to be memorable. I want to be timeless. And you can't do that if you are trying to follow everybody else. And if that's my choice, the most people that are famous or that are making moves and making patterns and like trailblazers, they are very unapologetic with who they are. They don't care that they're cringe. They don't care about not being seen, because they understand that that is what's going to be a trendsetter. That's what's going to set you apart. And I just have this like sheer utter belief, like you said, that's like, this is gonna change. I don't know how this is going to look like. Sometimes you got to be like, fuck the how, and not even worry about that, because that's all, every decision that you are making, it's just getting you step closer. It's giving you more feedback as to where you need to go and where you need to be. I never thought in a million years that I thought I was just going to do hair, honestly. And then like to get into a space where I was able to speak on stage. And then like, I'm also super grateful that I'm in a environment that my manager, like our boss, like supports me. For her to come up to me and say, can you teach a class on time management? And that just kind of goes confirmation that you don't have to be at the top in order to make an impact. Sometimes you have to make some changes and make some moves at wherever you are. Technically, I'm an assistant. And you would think that like, oh, why is an assistant teaching class? And I love that about our boss, is that she doesn't see that. Like, I don't see status. I see that you have value to give. And for her to just willingly be like, I want you to teach this, that was like, oh my goodness, like confirmation that this can be for me as well. I can do this too. Why not both?
Right.
Why not both?
Making an impact isn't about being at the top. It's about being authentically who you are.
Exactly.
And that's, yeah, I love that you said that because that's another soapbox of mine that I could go on all day. Well, this has just been the best conversation.
I know.
Just
So
want to,
good.
so much fun. I just want to give you a moment to be able to kind of talk about what you do and how people can support you. And if they want to know more about what you're doing, get plugged in. So if you wanted to share about that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, so besties, like if you can find me, I am primarily on Instagram and TikTok, maybe a little bit of Snapchat if you want to see some day to day behind the scenes of how I am actually applying all of my tools, resources, and tricks into my community and just see my everyday life. So you can see me at the Dani Mimosa. So I know that like I'll share all of like my social media. And then right now, if you want to get like full access and one-on-one not intimacy, but if you want to get into the community, I do have a monthly membership of my accountability community called Momentum because you need to have momentum in order to hit your goals. So I am predominantly active on there in my community platform. That is where the girlies are going to come share their wins, their goals. They have their monthly trainings with me. They get one-on-one calls. And that's just kind of been where my energy and focus has been, besides building my clientele behind the chair right now. So if you see me on social media, probably think about that and 10 times more of how active I am in my momentum community right now. So that's how they can get plugged in. I'm very consistent of sharing of like what I'm going to do, different offers, different packages, and different exciting workshops and events that I'm going to be doing in the near future. So I'm super excited to announce that.
Yay, I love it. And of course, I'm going to link everything for you guys as well because Dani is just an incredible person and human. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great week.